So I kind of know a glimpse of this kind of phase as well. You mentioning traveling, going to kind of see Jack and stuff like
Yeah.
that. What was kind of the professions that you were looking at outside of teaching?
Yeah, it's just like kind of like mortgages, but like it was funny. Like I think I was telling you earlier, like during that time, my friends were making fun of me. Like, what do you do? Like, I just play Madden and I teach. That's it. Excuse me. So I didn't have like any hobbies. You know what I mean? I wasn't like playing football anymore. You know, I wasn't good anymore. Getting older. And then so one day we went to LA, Hollywood. They're like, "Oh, come see this DJ with us." I'm like DJ because I grew up in the '90s. It's like Tupac, Biggie, East Coast, West Coast rap, and then the pop phase hit, like the NSYNCs, the Britney Spears, right?
Yeah,
Like so,
yeah,
music was kind of going through like a weird transition. And I think people were kind of sick of the whole like produced pop culture that was they were being fed, and hip hop wasn't quite the same hip hop it was as me growing up,
yeah.
seeing like these great rappers and all stuff like that. So like, oh, let's go see this DJ's name is Steve Aoki. I'm like, a DJ? What's like? What do you mean? Like that doesn't make sense. To pay for money to go see a DJ, like all this all that. So I see Steve Aoki, and like he's going up on stage, and like he's standing up on like, the top, and the crowd goes crazy, and I'm just like, dude, that's so cool. Like I want to do that. You know what I mean? And so it was kind of funny. Like the next day, I went to like Guitar Center, bought little mini MIDI player, and just to play around with it, like thinking like that's like cool and but you know, and then my other buddy at the time, Daniel David, and we worked together in the mortgage industry. He was just like, dude, like he used to be a big club promoter, and it's like, hey, let's practice, let's make some songs, and also like this rap,
Yo,
and then my buddy who was also like super rich man, so successful. He's just like, hey man, it's my party coming up. I'm gonna rent out a club. You guys need a DJ. And like we're like here embarrassed, like, dude, okay. And then so he saw a somebody at Guitar Center that was a DJ, and he offered to like for $300 each to teach us lessons. And we're like, okay, screw it. Like let's learn
yeah, yeah.
let's learn how to like DJ. And then we went to this guy's like house, and he had like this shed, and like just smoked like packs of cigarettes in his shed. And he was just like, hey man, you guys want to learn how to DJ, or like you want to be a bedroom DJ, or you want to be a real DJ? And we're like, what's a bedroom DJ? The guys that fake it, like like bust out a laptop, this and that. Like nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying like, so the European DJs, like the David Guettas, the the Avicii's
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
time,
Afro,
all
yeah,
the
yeah.
you know what I mean? Yeah, Afrojack. Like
What?
they all bring like
Three House,
flashlight.
what was it? Three House Mafia. What is it
Yeah,
again?
yeah,
Swedish House Mafia.
Swedish House. Yeah,
Yeah,
Swedish House Mafia, which was my favorite DJ group ever. And they totally motivated me because they made the whole lifestyle of a DJ like feel like a celebrity.
yeah.
And so like he taught us how okay, we want to learn the legit way. So every DJ, every club has CDJs, and it's not about bringing crates of music. It's like everything's in a flash drive.
That's it.
And so you have to learn how to beat match and all that stuff like that. So he taught us how to beat match, how to do this. Long story short, we play our buddy Min's. I'm still good friends with Min today. I spoke to him yesterday.
Yo,
He was actually my motivation when it came to social media and TikToks and all that stuff
shout
like
outs to
that.
him.
Yeah. So we'll talk about Min a little bit. But long story short, like we party, we DJ as party. Like we had all the cues written on a piece of paper. Like okay, like at 2 minutes and 58 seconds, I'm gonna put in the next song. Like we're just learning it on the fly. And then like a club promoter was there, and he was just like, hey man, why don't you guys open for Sander Van Dorn, who's like a world famous DJ at
Yeah,
Sutra. So Sutra is one of the most popular clubs in Orange County. It's in Costa Mesa. They're no longer Sutra; they're called Time now.
hmm.
But they had a run where like all the DJs DJ'd there. Calvin Harris DJ'd there.
Jeez.
Uh, we're talking about the top of the top
Yeah,
DJ. Even I think Cascade was there one time. I'm sure they've gotten Cascade. So
maybe Dead Mouse if he can snuff.
yeah,
He's hard
yeah,
to get in.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Like I swear they probably had a chance to get the guys from Sutra, uh, like the all those promoters. They even got Marshmello before Marshmello was
Yo,
famous. Yeah, he didn't DJ. I don't think at Sutra, but he did it at one of their events that
sure.
they had. Right. So yeah, we're like, oh shoot, like we're gonna open for like Sander Van Doren. So we bought like all the we bought the CDJs. We committed to it. Every day I'd practice, and so like yeah, I was teacher by day, and on the weekends I would DJ. But like you weren't making any money though.
No,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like we were lucky. We hung out with a lot of ballers, and so they would get bottle service. So it was a big time when it came to bottle service, and all stuff like that. And so we would get a big crew that would always get bottle service. So I think we were able to draw a lot of people. We even headlined at Sutra. So we opened for like Chucky, DJ Chucky, Laid Back Luke. We've
Wild.
opened for a lot of big DJs back then, and we even headlined there. So yeah, I at one phase I wanted to be an EDM DJ, but then I realized, man, like the music just gets harder and harder. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be so good, and like it was progressing into like trap music, and like we would put a little hip hop in, but like the music just progressed so much, and you had to do so much to maintain that audience's attention.
Yeah.
That
It takes work.
it takes a lot of work. So I did that for a while. I was like, we were pretty serious about wanting to do it full time and produce and all that stuff, but we just never did because life happens, and we start meeting our significant others and kids and all that. So we kind of had to retire that.
So you're looking back, right? Because at this time, I think this is where you meet your wife now, right?
Yeah.
You're a kid from Vietnam
Yeah.
who immigrated to Germany. that kind of was just transplanted to a kind of flatland Fullerton. Your parents are hardworking, in a swap meet, selling shoes, trying to find a way to be able to put, make ends meet. You have your family living with you as well. You can't really obviously have the best communication with them. You don't have that Vietnamese, but you're working hard, and you're a humble person. You're going through high school, with some of the top people in the school, and you're not being intimidated. You have this humility, like, hey, look, I'm going to become a teacher, and obviously be an actor. And I think this is kind of where the EDM kind of side comes in, right? But like you're exploring this new life, right? Kind of looking back into like, that being, that life that, at this moment, what was kind of the feeling here? Like, where you have, are you like feeling like, man, I wish I made some different things? Or are you kind of like, wow, just look how far I've come, like to this point of like, before you kind of get married and into this, kind of mortgage life and having kids on that side?
Right. Yeah. Cause at the time it's like, that's why I say California's tough, right? It's always like keeping up with the Joneses. Like you feel like you have a lot or you're successful, but there's always someone bigger and better that has more money or is more successful. And during that time, it's funny because like now I'm in the house music scene, DJing. Now I'm getting chicks. That's what's funny about it. Because right? you realize like, oh man, like chicks like DJs. I wonder why. You know what I mean? Like, and people would ask me to DJ their after parties all the time and this and that. And it was just funny because and then it became easy to meet chicks because I would just be like, oh, hey, come to our show. Like, and then you're like headlining, you know what I mean? Like, there's like thousands of people like cheering for you. And you know what I mean? So it became like, man, this is easy. Like I got this figured out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then, so during that time, so this is why I left teaching, right? So what happened was, I remember there was a teacher at my school, right? And man, this guy was like uber successful. Everybody wanted to be his class. He was teaching. So at the time I was a fourth grade teacher in Diamond Bar, and like everybody wanted to be in this particular teacher's class. And he was there like 20 something years. And I remember being in the library and I see like the old pictures. This school has been around for a while.
Right.
And I'm like, bro, this guy looks like a young Marlon Brando. Like, this is a handsome dude.
Right.
Like, wow, I could see why he was like the most popular teacher. He's now like in his 50s and 60s or whatever it is, right? And then one day he got in trouble because he kind of grabbed a kid by his sweater because the kid didn't do his homework. Right? And then they kind of like forced him to retire. And here I am as the new young kid on the block. Everybody wants to be Mr. Din's class. I'm sitting at his retirement, man. And
my bad.
That's all good. And you're sitting in his retirement in the school cafeteria.
Hey, Sarah, that was Rolando. Can you hit him up? Thank you. Sorry. Continue.
So like you're like in the school cafeteria for someone that dedicated their whole life. And like all they gave him was like a plaque. Like, hey, thanks for serving. Like,
jeez.
No trip to Hawaii. Like no send off. You know, like no doves flying from the rafters type of thing. Off of like one mistake. Like it was a big mistake because you don't lay hands on kids, of course. Like, dude, you don't. Like that's not cool whatsoever. But as a teacher, I know that like there are many moments where a kid could make you feel like so mad because they don't listen or they cuss or they did this or that. And I just saw the teaching profession change. You know, I saw it became more of like a dog and pony type of thing. Like you had to teach towards standards, and the kids had to recite why they had to learn this lesson, and it became like no longer like you have to know 5 times 5 is 25. Like it's just you have to know your multiplication. It became like, oh, let's explain what 5 times 5 is. Let's say you have a party and you invite 5 of your friends. Each one gets 5 pieces of candy. And, you know, it became more of like a dog and pony show, right? And I love teaching. I still get to be a teacher as a mortgage professional to this day. I teach clients about the loan process. But I was very worried that what if one day I snapped? What if one day I got mad at a student and I cussed at them, you know, because I was mad or having a bad day.
Yeah.
And so that was very eye-opening. So I left like in 2011, and I just kind of told my parents like, hey, you know, I think I'm going to go into mortgages and just to try to make more money and like, you know, raise a family of my own. Because, you know, as a teacher, you weren't making a lot of money and you just weren't getting the respect that you should be for that profession.
No, I feel it. Yeah, no, I mean?
So yeah, it's kind of like the ghost of Christmas future. Past.
Yeah, no, huge. You know what I mean? Yeah,
like the ghost of future came and showed me like, hey, this is what your life could look like, and I was just, man, I don't want to be sent off like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I kind of have 3 directions I want to take this. So, but I'll see if I could take it like chronologically here. So that transition from kind of leaving the kind of teaching world into going into like the mortgage profession. You know, how did your family feel about that? I know your 2 brothers you were trying to get more closer to as well, and they're probably seeing you like, you know, this new 2 lives, and like, oh my God, look at my brother, right? But as well as like, man, they see you also being kind of a teacher as well, and I imagine your parents coming from that profession as well. Was it kind of hard for them, or was it like, hey, no, just keep doing what you're doing, and that supportive like type of mentality?
Yeah, do you know, they had like the full faith in
that
me.
Is crazy.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. I look back and I'm like, that's why I call my parents like saints. They're like living day saints, man. They like, you can do no wrong in their eyes. You know what I mean? Of course, no one's perfect. You know, obviously as parents, they're not perfect. I'm not perfect. But in terms of their mentality of like, yeah, you can do it. Right. Just like when I told my mom I want to be an actor. Sure. You know what I mean? You want to be a teacher? Sure. We're going to support you. I really want to be like that father to my son, my sons. You know what I mean? So like they were totally cool with me going into the mortgage profession, starting my own career in that path.
And your brothers and your two brothers. Sorry, I keep saying sisters.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's all good.
Your two brothers. What was kind of your relationship with them? What's their personalities like at this time?
Yeah, so Joe was always like outgoing. You know, it's funny. We're all kind of different. Like, so I was very whitewashed. All his friends were Korean.
Oh, yo.
So he was like the Korean version. And my brother Martin, all his friends were Hispanic. So he was like the Mexican version, right, of all of us. And it was funny because me growing up, like we grew up in kind of like a Hispanic neighborhood as well. Like my name was Chino. So Chino is kind of like affectionate. Like it's Chinese. I guess it's Chinese, right? But all Mexican people called me Chino. When I played football, I had Chino in my jersey. So it's so funny. Like to this day, my friends will call me Chino. You know what I mean? And my younger brother was also called Chino, Martin. And so we were all totally different. Like me was like the rule follower. Joe was like the rule breaker. And Martin was just kind of like, yeah, like just go with the flow. Like he's like the nicest person. You know, he's like rule follower.
Sure.
Excuse me. So like we all had different personalities. We all had different friends. So that's what's interesting about all of us when it comes to our personalities.
And how did they kind of accept your relationship now with your current spouse? I don't know if that is this around the right time. I'm right here.
Oh yeah. So when I get into mortgages around 2011, and then they're having me like cold call. Like I have no idea what sales is. I came from the teaching profession. I'm getting hung up left and right. You know, I'm cold calling realtors to try to get business. I have no idea what I'm saying. Like I'm just saying like, hey, yeah, like we close on time or whatever. Like no idea what any of that means. And I'm like this sucks. I'm just getting rejected left and right. Like I get no business. Like, can I do something more like on the paperwork side? Because I'm good with paperwork.
Right.
So I became a processor. You know, and in mortgages, a processor handles a lot of the paperwork, and he or she's the liaison with the underwriter who makes the final decision. And so you have your loan officer who gets the business. Your processor helps collect the documents and works with the underwriting to approve the loan, right? And so I became a processor, and I was a very good processor, became a processing manager and a junior underwriter as well. And then during this time as a processing manager was when I met my wife. So I was in charge of hiring processors for different branches. And the West Covina branch was looking for a processor. And so Min, who I talked about earlier, who was my major influence in terms of social media that I have now. But, you know, Min is not only one of my really good friends, he was like the regional manager. He had teams underneath him with all these different loan officers, and all these guys were super successful. And he's like, you know what, James, like I want you to be my processing manager. I want you to manage the processors. I want you to hire a processor for whatever branch that needs a processor. And so corporate brings in and says, hey, you should interview this processor. Her name is Sunny. She's one of the best interviews what we've seen. We interviewed her for like a different position, but she would rather be a processor. So I bring her into the office. I meet with her, ask her like all the hard-hitting questions. She passes flying color. I'm like, yeah, like we'll hire you. Like West Covina is looking for one. And then at the time she was dating somebody. I was still kind of DJing.
Sure.
So I was like meeting girls and having fun. And my wife, she's Korean. Her name's Sunny. This is her, and she's like very pretty. Like all the guys were kind of like, "Oh, who's that? Who's that processor?" You know. And I'm always very professional, so like I never thought. But like months go by, and everyone's like, "Hey," she had broken up with her boyfriend, and like, maybe there's something with you guys. You know what I mean? And then so one of the branch managers, Kevin Kittikar, we're still good friends. We're big Laker fans, so we're always talking about Lakers. And he's a branch manager. I'm a branch manager now, so we talk about a lot of stuff about when it comes to our teams and this and that. But long story short, back then when I was a processing manager, he was just like, hey, I got an idea, bro. I got a good idea. Me and Sunny go out for some drinks. We'll go to her like favorite Korean spot, like where we have like Korean barbecue. Whatever, you know what I mean? And this is what I'll do. Like, so he has like a 2-year-old or whatever at the time. He's just like, I'll pretend that like my son is sick and I got to go home, but I'll leave you two there by yourself. I'm like, all right, like that's a good idea. Let's do that.
Does he know this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a setup. It was a setup. And
That's
so
awesome.
and so we go out, and then she just sees me like sitting at the booth by myself. She's like, "Where's Kevin?" I'm like, "Dude, sorry. Like Kevin had to bounce because his son wasn't feeling too good. Guess it's just you and me." So that night we're like having like soju shots, we're drinking and we're having a good time, and then we get into an Uber. Uber was still, I think, yeah, it's still back then. Like 2000 around.
Yeah. This is around time.
Yeah, like so this is like 2015 ish. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 2015. And then we're sitting in the car, and as a guy, there's there's telltales.
Sure.
Like, if a girl likes you, like, she breaks the touch barrier, touches your arm a couple times, like,
sure,
she's interested. Well, like I misread this. I'm at this time, I'm thinking I'm pretty good, like, with chicks now. Like, I kind of know the telltales. She gets tired in the backseat Uber. She puts her, like, head on my shoulder, and she, like, looks up. I'm like, bro, if I don't go in for it, excuse me, if I don't go in for a kiss,
this is the time.
Yeah, this is the time. It's like
this is the moment.
Yeah,
this
like,
is the moment we've all been waiting for. Yeah,
right. So I go in for a kiss. She backs out. She's like, "Oh, whoa, like, whoa, what are you doing?" kind of thing. Dude, like, the Uber stops right there. Like, we just dropped her off at her apartment. Like, she's like, "Okay, I'll see you at work later." And the Uber guy looks at me through the rear window. He's like, "Nice." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like, I just crashed and burned. And then, like, the next day, I'm like doing damage control. Like, I'm like texting her like, "Hey, Sonny," I'm like, "Sorry, like, I hope that we can have a good work relationship. I totally misread that." And she, like, gave the, how girls or guys, like, you have, like, that line that you say, "Oh, I'm just focused on work. I'm not looking for a relationship. You're such a nice guy. And I'm totally glad that you're my manager." Like, you know what I mean? Like, it totally gave me the brush off. And, and everything is, like, fine. I'm like, sure. Oh, thank God. Like, damage control. Like, I'm good. And then it wasn't until, like, so I had an assignment, like, so one of the branches, their processor, she had to go on maternity leave, so they needed a processor. So I went there for, like, 3 months to help train their staff to handle all the processing. And I hadn't seen Sunny for, like, 3 months. We would talk here and there on the phone. She'd have scenario questions. And I get back to our office in Irvine where everybody was at, and then, like, it clicked. And then that's what, like, for her, it was more like an emotional thing. It wasn't like a physical. It was like emotionally she wasn't ready. Emotionally she wasn't attracted.
Sure.
But then when I came back, like, one of the girls, Gabby, she was another processor. She goes, "James, I think Sunny likes you." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, "Oh, yeah, we were having lunch." And she was just like, "Oh, look at James. Like, he's looking good." And then, and then I was like, "Okay." And then that's when I asked her out. Like, it was like a Memorial weekend. She wasn't doing anything. I asked her out to dinner. And then,
sometimes it happens that way, right? You kind of need to wait for the season. Sometimes it's not the right time to harvest.
I like that one.
You planted the seed. Yeah. You just needed it to.
Yeah.
You just needed it to. Just keep watering it. Yeah. Right. Yeah, time will come. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I take it she got along with your friends and family, and it was just kind of like it just felt like she was a part of the team.
Right. Yeah, she, and like, for me, I knew, because, like, I never met a person that loved me that much. You know what's crazy?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because you meet other girls, and like, "Oh, this is my girlfriend," but like I never met somebody that was a fighter like her. Like we would get an argument and then she'd be the first one to be like, no, I'm not giving up. Because like I'm kind of like a quitter in relationship. I was like the proverbial single guy for such a long time.
Sure, yeah.
Like I would show up to like family gatherings or friends gatherings, like their kids' birthday parties, like, oh, there's James, a party animal, like he's single, you know what I mean? Like forever the single bachelor. And I felt like when you just know, right? Obviously when you know, you just know. I had never met somebody that just like wholeheartedly was a fighter for a relationship, would never let me give up. And she's so big on family. So that was what I was missing. I never felt like close to my family.
Sure, sure.
I always felt very distant a lot of times. Like, you know, we talk about the language barrier, that type of thing. But for her, she taught me a lot about the importance of family. So now I'm like a huge family guy. But before I was like, my friends were my family.
I don't know if you can touch on this, but what is kind of the dynamic of her family and how that kind of you assimilate to kind of her friend group and her relationship with her kind of side of the world.
And Sarah can attest to this. Like Korean people are like the tops of the Asian chain. You know what I'm saying? Like Korean people will let you know that they're Korean. You know what I'm saying? They're so proud of that. Like that. And bro, BTS now is like, you know what I mean? Like if you're gonna be an Asian right now, being Korean is like the tops of the tops. So at first I was kind of intimidated because it's like, man, like, you know, I grew up in Sunny Hills. The Koreans were the top. Like, you know, I'm Vietnamese. Like we think we're dope because like, you know, we got the pho, we got the banh mi. Like Korean food to me is elite. I mean, Vietnamese food is elite.
Yo,
you know,
pho though is like
it's elite.
Oh, it's too good.
Yeah. If you don't like pho, I don't know what's up with you. You know what I mean? Like it's elite.
I'm writing
elite status, right? And then so I was like worried at first, you know, but like, you know, I met her mom. Like, dude, her mom is like my mom, salt of the earth, the most wonderful Korean lady. So she's a chef for like a restaurant. Like, so she's very known within the Korean community as one of like the best cooks. Like she's never made a bad dish. And I love cooking. I'm like a big cook person. So I cook a lot. So like my first meal for Sunny's mom, dude, I busted out like aged ribeye with like twice baked potato with like asparagus, like, you know, did the French style where you ladle the butter with the thyme.
Okay, bro, I see you.
Yeah, you know me. So like I impressed her mom with my cooking right off the bat because she's a chef. But and her dad is just a super sweet guy, and so like they just like were just the nicest people, and her sister and my brother-in-law, Steven and Jenny, like we all just got along. And I never felt like different in terms of like, you know, you ain't as cool as us Koreans. You know what I mean? Never felt that way whatsoever. And when my parents met her mom, like, it was just like, you knew that like this was a match. Because I was worried, like, you know, would they get along? They don't speak each other's language.
Yeah. Can you dive into that real quick? This is a personal. Everybody, sorry, this is a moment for me.
Yeah.
What was that? I don't know if you remember that instance of them two meeting. Can you dive into like that? Yeah, I would love to explore that.
Yeah, so we took her mom and my parents out to like a restaurant, like an Asian restaurant, and you know, like my parents had brought her a gift, her mom a gift, her mom brought my parents a gift, and it was just like so. Her mom just speaks Korean, so Sunny was translating to my parents. But you can just tell, like, you know, by their smiles and the way that they respect each other, looked at each other, and it's like when souls connect. You know, it's like it's not always language. It's like your communication, you know, nonverbal and how you are, and so yeah, from that day one, they were able to, even though we weren't. Like, it was like sitting there over wine, everyone's talking about their life story. It wasn't like that at all. It was just kind of like that like, hey, your daughter, your son they're perfect for each other. We know that. Like, you know, Like this is just kind of more of like a formality of like seeing where you came from. And then we left it as like, I could see why you're such a terrific person, vice versa. Why I believe Sunny's such a great person because of her mom and her sister.
That's awesome.
And why she felt like I was like, you know, a genuine person because of my parents.